This should not be shocking, but it is. It should come as a surprise to no one that our former fearless leader, Johnny B. Biden, was a cognitive disaster. But when you actually hear how he was behind the scenes, it's terrifying, and it's damn sure terrifying to the mainstream media, not because they didn't know. Hell, we all knew about it. It's terrifying for the media because they have once again been busted lying to the American people. I didn't think it was possible for the media to have less credibility, but after the leaked audio was released late yesterday afternoon of John Biden struggling to remember the passing of his son, leaked audio that I believe the media could have known about 2 years ago. Once this audio was leaked, the mainstream media to me lost all credibility, if they had any credibility left to lose. You know, there are certain dates throughout your life that you just remember. Maybe it's the date of your first wedding. You might not remember the date of your fourth wedding. Once you get married several times, the novelty kind of wears off. But most people will remember the date of their first wedding. I'm sure a lot of mothers will remember dropping off their child for their first day of school. Although we might vividly remember some of those positive memories, oftentimes we never forget the traumatic memories. Even though it was 10 years ago, I have never forgotten July 30th, 2015. I was 30 years old at the time. My first marriage was collapsing. That summer, I was hanging out more and more with my friends. Most of them were single at the time, and we were going out to the bars. Thursday night, July 30th, 2015. We went out for dinner and drinks, then we bar hopped downtown. Around 11 o'clock, I was a little bit intoxicated, but I was still in control. We decided to go for one more drink at a bar that had several incidents that summer of people's drinks being spiked. Of course, we weren't worried about that. We weren't thinking about that. We were just having a good time. I had one drink at this particular bar. One. I remember looking at my phone around 11:30 thinking that I needed to go home because I had to go to work the next morning. The next thing I remember, I'm staring at the clock at the police station and it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Luckily, I regained my faculties in time to decline any blood draws or sobriety test. That was extremely beneficial to me months later in court when they had to throw out my DUI over a lack of evidence. I got out of jail around 9 or 10 the next morning, and the first thing I'm looking for is my car, my 4Runner. I was assuming that it was towed, which it was. I ended up finding it at the impound yard, but there was just one problem. One tiny problem. My car wasn't drivable because apparently I slowly drove my 4Runner directly into a street light in the parking lot that I was parked in. Thank God the car was the only thing that was damaged. I was extremely lucky that I didn't make it onto the interstate that night, which was only about a mile away. If I had, I would not be talking to you guys right now. There was thousands of dollars of damage to my 4Runner. I think it took them 2 or 3 months just to fix it. The lawyer cost me a couple of $1,000s. I almost lost my job. During the summer of 2015, life was not going well for Uncle KC, which is why it's 10 years later and I still vividly remember the exact date that everything happened. Now, I am not a psychiatrist. I don't know about different levels of trauma or even if there are different levels of trauma, but I would call what I went through mild trauma. It was scary. It was life-changing. You have a tendency to wake the hell up when you realize that you could have died. But what I went through is nothing compared to losing a child. I have never been in that situation before, but I would imagine it's something that you vividly remember. I would imagine the details are something you never forget. Details like, I don't know, the year that it happened. Unfortunately for Joe Biden, he struggled to remember the details of the passing of Beau Biden, his son. When you listen to the clip here in just a second, it's hard not to feel bad for him. It's hard not to sympathize with him. But my question is, where in the hell was the mainstream media? Because as you're about to see, the Morning John on MSNBC, they were potentially complicit in covering up the obvious decline of Joe Biden. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Link to the second channel is in the description below. Later today on the second channel, going to be talking about the decline of Howard Stern, how he wanted to sit courtside at the Knicks game last night. Now, this is extremely rare. Howie has barely walked outside since the Covey emerged 5 years ago, but he was willing to make a rare public appearance. He was willing to grace us with his presence to watch the Knicks advance to the Eastern Conference Finals. Only problem was, Howie was not relevant enough to be invited. So click the link in the description below, subscribe to the second channel. Late yesterday afternoon, Axios obtained audio from the Robert Hur investigation into John Biden. The interview was conducted in October of 2023. Now, according to the New York Post, the Biden administration had previously refused to release this audio. They were claiming that it contained confidential law enforcement materials. What it actually contained was further proof, evidence, that John Biden was rapidly declining. Like I said, I am not a psychiatrist. I'm damn sure not a doctor. I have no idea how personal trauma can affect the brain, especially as you get older. I don't know if trauma can cause you to forget things. I don't know if it can enhance the effects of cognitive issues. But to me, the decline of Joe Biden started after he lost his son. Beau Biden passed away in May of 2015 after a long battle with brain cancer. If you go back and look at Joe Biden prior to 2015 and you compare it to Joe Biden in 2019, 2020, there is a stark difference. Now, it could be attributed to age, but I've always thought that the passing of Beau Biden had a massive impact on Joe Biden, and understandably so. I don't care how old the child is, a parent never wants to say goodbye to their own child. It's supposed to work the other way around. During this interview with Robert Hur, they're talking about classified documents. For some reason, the interview turns personal and Joe Biden starts talking about the passing of his son. He's getting years confused. He is stumbling through his responses. Robert Hur is trying to talk about things that happened during Biden's time as a senator or as vice president. Meanwhile, Joe Biden is talking about things that happened 10 or so years later. And he's trying to claim that events that happened in 2015, 2017, 2018 had an impact on his decisions while he was vice president. At least that's how I understood it. To be honest with you, the clip is rather confusing, mainly because Joe Biden was confused throughout it. Watch it for yourself.
Where did you keep papers that related to those things that you were actively working on?
Well, I don't know. This is what, 2017, 18, that area?
Yes, sir.
Remember, in this time frame, my son is either been deployed or is dying. One month ago died. May 30th, 2018. 2015 he died?
2015.
I think it's 2015.
I'm not sure the months are, but I think that was
That's right, Mr. President.
And what's happened in the meantime is that Trump gets elected in November of 2017? 2016. All right. So 2017 here.
That's when you left office, January of 2017.
Okay.
Look, I think we can all sympathize with Joe Biden. I know we spent a lot of time over the last 4 years making fun of our former fearless leader. Hell, someone had to do it. We damn sure couldn't rely on Jim Kimmel or the so-called comedians on Saturday Night Live to do it. But it is abundantly clear at this point, Joe Biden was not fit to be president. He just wasn't. Maybe that's one of the reasons that Barack Obama didn't want him to run back in 2016. The story to me here, though, is not the decline of Joe Biden. We all knew about that. The story here is the cover-up of that decline by the mainstream media. Like I told you guys yesterday, the media destroyed Robert Hur for conducting this investigation. John Scarborough referred to him as a Trumper. They tried to discredit him because he's a Republican. After the Hur report was released, John Scarborough went on MSNBC and he said this about Joe Biden. Watch it for yourself.
He's cogent. But I undersold him when I said he was cogent. He's far beyond cogent. In fact, I think he's better than he's ever been. Start your tape right now, because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. This version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best Biden ever.
Better than he's ever been? Stop the tape because you're about to tell us the truth? This is what you call the truth. I don't know if John Scarborough had access to this audio the last 18 months. I'm assuming he had access to the transcripts, but maybe he did have access to the audio. Maybe he didn't. We'll never know because if the media did have access to the audio, they refused to report on it. But we didn't need to hear this leaked audio to know that John Biden had declined. John Scarborough was trying to convince us that Joe Biden was in the best shape of his life, and he was struggling to remember when he lost his son. Once Cam Harris lost the election, what was the first thing John Scarborough and Mika Bazooka did? Did they fly to Delaware to play one last game of Dungeons and Dragons with Johnny B? Did they visit with Cam Harris to give her a shoulder to cry on? No. And no, the first thing they did after the election was spend a passionate weekend at Mar-a-Lago kissing the Trumper's ass. And then they wonder why they have no credibility. It's going to be interesting to see who Jake Tapper exposes in his new book. Book is going to be released on Tuesday, and it's going to be interesting to see which pretend friends in the media that Jake Tapper betrays. This should be a scandal. The media, who is supposed to be part of the checks and balances, the media is supposed to keep the government honest. And for the last 4 years, maybe even longer, they were complicit in covering up the decline of Joe Biden. And once they were busted, what did they do? They lied about it. They tried to convince us that they didn't know. Give me your thoughts on this. Axios releases humiliating audio of Joe Biden where he struggles to remember details about the passing of his son, Beau Biden. Should people in the media lose their jobs over this? Do you think this was a coordinated effort to cover for Joe Biden? Let me know. Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys later.